welcome back. Here we are another day. So if this is your first time joining, my name is Krista Bigler and I am a DIY dietitian, which means I like to give you the tools for a happy and healthier home. So something that's been happening is when I run into people, they tell me that they've been watching my videos. That's a huge help to me because people are unknowingly telling me, they usually follow that up with maybe some barriers that they have. And that helps me know what maybe you would like to know next. So that's where today's topic comes off of. How do you even get started eating healthfully? Well, there's a million ideas that we could talk about for that, but I'm just gonna go over a couple. So the first thing I think you have to do is assess where you are. So in nutritional counseling, something very common that we do is like a 3-day food diary, 2 days on a weekday and 1 day on a weekend. Gives you a lot of insight on where you are now. And if you don't know where you are now, it's hard to move forward. You have to identify those barriers or issues or problems and move forward. So food diary is great. Hey, Kelsey. The other thing is, what kind of a food environment are you creating for yourself? Just look inside your fridge, and if you can open it up and pick out some things that you know you could make, maybe you are creating a positive food environment. Often I go to people's homes and I would love to make something for them, but I look in their fridge and sometimes there's not a lot there. So are you spending money on junk and wasting money that way and making it easy for yourself to derail? Or are you creating a food environment that allows you to be successful? Okay, so that's one question I would have for you. Another thing is, something that being a dietitian and a mom has taught me is that I could listen to you tell me some of your, a little bit about yourself, and I could tell you what I could see as the problem or barrier for you, but you don't care what I think the problem is. You care more about what you think the problem is. So starting with your own self-assessment is a great first step, because sometimes it can be a little bit eye-opening. You might ask yourself, are my portions out of control? So the next thing you do after you assess your current situation is think through a possible solution for one of those little things. And it doesn't need to be and you can't push it off or pass the buck. It needs to be something really small. Like, could I maybe, this is something I want you to kind of brainstorm on your own, but if you're having trouble brainstorming, sometimes talking out loud with someone helps. So I want to offer that to you for sure. I love brainstorming these things out loud with people, and I do it with others for myself. Things that I would think that I could come up with, obviously, but when you talk out loud to someone else, it helps. So if you want to chat about this, you can actually just book a free call with me, and you just go to www.diyrd.com, and we can just have a little phone chat. And in this digital age, I think we're really afraid to talk in person to each other, but every time I talk to someone on the phone, it's so much more, we have so much better breakthroughs that way, versus just kind of going back and forth messaging. Sometimes you don't really get to the root of things without kind of wasting a lot of each other's time. So if you want to bounce ideas off me, I'm happy to do that for you. So assess where you are, try to create a solution. If you can't come up with a solution, then ask me and we can talk about it together, Okay, second thing would be think about what you can add to your life, because we often think about what we can take away, and that doesn't always make us very happy. So think about things you can add, okay? So the obvious thing here is adding more good food, which the ultimate great foods are veggies, even more so than fruit. I don't think we're very nervous about trying new fruits as much as we are veggies, because we have preconceived notions on how we feel about a lot of veggies. Now, the very first video I have on this page has to do with the chemistry behind wanting to eat more fruits and veggies and the antioxidants and how they prevent aging and cancer and wrinkles because of the free radicals. You can scroll back to that one if you want some more background on that. But the idea is veggies are super low calorie and super nutrient dense, so you get a lot of bang for your buck versus junk food, right? Doesn't have a lot of nutrients but has a lot of calories, and when you don't have a lot of nutrients, your body continues to push out signals that you're still hungry, so you just keep eating them. So that's kind of the difference there, and it goes back to that whole healthy food environment. If you create an environment for yourself that works, you're gonna have better success overall. And it's not perfect all the time, but these are just some ideas to get started. So think about things you can add. Let's talk about adding more good stuff, because the next barrier I hear from people is, well, healthy food costs money. It's my favorite myth to like debunk because there's options for you. There's definitely options. And what happens, tell me if this is you. What happens, how often does it happen that when you go to the grocery store, you buy the same old stuff all the time? You don't try anything new. You just buy like maybe, like my grocery store, it just has maybe 10 or 12 options for fruits and veggies. And so you just kind of get used to those same old things that you're familiar with and you like to cook with. So I have a challenge for you. Next time you go grocery shopping, please try one new vegetable that you wouldn't normally try. And I'm piggybacking off an idea. So around a lot of you have options for food co-ops or what are like CSAs. And I just talked to a friend about community supported agriculture or CSAs last weekend that got me thinking about this. She was really excited. When you participate in a CSA, that's you buying a share from a farmer for their produce, and they give you like a small amount, or not a small amount, but a pretty good load every week for your contribution. Now that's not available to all of us. A few years ago, we started a little bit of a local food co-op that's pretty national, where we contribute maybe $15 or $20 every couple of weeks, and we get a basket that has 10 or 12 items, and each item isn't necessarily just one thing. Maybe there's like 10 limes or 5 oranges would be one item. And what happens then is that I'm forced to have a greater variety in our diet because we have this food accessible to us. We didn't pay a lot for it. And there's things on our table that we normally wouldn't buy. So for example, I normally wouldn't go to the grocery store and buy a cabbage all the time because it looks like work. You know, I have to peel it off and cut it up and all this stuff. But when it's landing in my box and landing in my fridge, I then have to be a little bit more creative. And the other part is the things that come in these like seasonal co-ops or food co-ops, and I've seen all over the country there's different ones. Like I have friends in New York and they get like $5 for a whole bunch of stuff. But they're around. You just have to kind of seek them out. The thing about those is that they're giving you seasonal produce, and when you are eating seasonal produce, it has more nutrients versus non-seasonal, and that's why they're able to get it at a lower cost. So that's one issue when people say that produce costs a lot. They're usually buying things that aren't in season. And things that aren't in season have to be shipped from halfway around the world, and they taste like crap because they were picked too early and they didn't have the chance to mature their nutrients, so their nutrient potential really isn't there. So when you have seasonal stuff, it's way more tasty, way more nutrient dense, and way cheaper. Bing, bang, boom. Win, win, win. This is another one I got in my basket this week. This is like a Santa Claus melon, I think, and it's a lot like a honeydew, but if I saw this in the grocery store, I probably wouldn't pick it up because we're like creatures of habit. We want to do the same thing. So my suggestion to you is try to challenge yourself by adding one new thing, okay? Now, I know what you're going to say next. How do I prepare that? Well, yesterday I mentioned that there's some pretty old standards of ways you can prepare things. So like fresh is one way, especially if you're buying it like this, but a little olive oil on medium heat with some garlic salt or regular salt is a fantastic standby. So hey Darcy and Jess. So that's a fantastic standby, and it tastes good for pretty much most veggies. So if you don't know where to start there, okay? So we talked about assessing where you are now. Like you can use a food diary, look in your fridge to see what kind of food environment you're creating for yourself, because if you have like nothing there to work with, then it's pretty hard to make healthful choices. When you look in, you're like, I have nothing to eat but this bag of chips over here, then it's kind of hard to get started. And then the other aspect is add something positive rather than thinking about taking something away, because no one likes that. Go out there and buy cheap, what's on sale. Just deviate to what's on sale and in season, because it's going to taste better, it's going to be less costly, and sometimes we need to try new things. If you buy something, you don't know how to prepare it, come back here and let's chat about it. Like, of course, we got Google for our friend too. But those are my tips for today. We could talk about a million ideas for getting started eating healthfully, but sometimes you got to just put that in motion a little bit, right? And you have to want to make a couple little changes. You have to want to kind of move forward in that. So assess where you are, create a solution to at least one small barrier. We can talk out loud about it if you want. You can book a call with me at www.diyrd.com, and I'm happy to just chat with you. It's called Discovery Call. We can just visit with it, because sometimes you come up with things when you talk out loud with someone that you wouldn't have otherwise. And then add something to your Add something new to your plate. Okay? So, tips for today, and I will see you guys back here tomorrow.